Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical. Proceeding from the root, we explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
Season 3 of the Radical Pod is a seasonally aligned exploration of the collective unconscious through the study of archetypes, and we continue our deeper looks into astrology and tarot.
This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina,
the two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Nicole.
And this is Christina.
Welcome to this episode on the Tarot Kings. I think we're just going to begin.
We're just going to go with the flow. I have a list, but it's not like a list like I did before of the correspondences. I kind of got on tangents and down rabbit holes of other things that kind of inspired me as we're doing this in Leo season.
And I looked at the minor arcana cards that each of the kings rule, and I, of course, made a table. I was trying to look for patterns. I actually pulled all the kings out of all my decks and put them together on my table to look at them.
Took a picture of the tarot cards that we've been talking about in the previous season, but then I also included the Hermetic Order tarot deck with the black and white images, and it was really interesting to see them all together like that. But then I also went off on a seasonal tangent, like I said, and we will just see where the energy takes us as we start this podcast about the Tarot Kings. First thing I want to say is, do you know how we have the 4 court card kings? Can you think of any other kings that are in the tarot deck? I've got some to think about. The Death card, underneath the Death card's horse, in the lower left-hand corner, there is a figure, and the crown is right by the foot of the horse. So that king, and the message is death comes for us all, regardless of if you're the little child, the young figure in white, or there's a religious figure, and then there's a authority figure there. But this king has white hair and like a white top with a blue cloak across it and red shoes, which doesn't match exactly the outfits really of any of the 4 court kings. So I see this king as a representation of like the authority figures. But I would say that that's a king. How about the Tower card? We have the 2 figures, and this is in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. We have the 2 figures falling from the tower. The figure on the right is a more slender figure with longer hair, and the crown is still on the head of that figure. But the other figure, the crown is at the top. So is that figure a king? And we know that the tower, the breaking of that man-made structure of the tower, does have imagery and sends us messages of breaking up the illusion and the man-made world that we have around us, like the things that we have made and the things that we have created. And that tower energy is the breaking of that man-made physical tower. So that could again be another representation of that authority figure. I think we talked about this when we talked about the 10 of Pentacles. There's a cloaked figure in the front with gray hair and a beard, and you see that cloak? It looks just like the cloak of the King of Pentacles. So there's a thought that is showing another generation of the passing on of the King of Pentacles energy into the generation of the young family in front of them, and also the completion of that Pentacles journey. And I went through all the cards, and I really looked to see if the kings were in any of the other cards, like all the other human figures, kind of looked through all the cards to see if any of them could be a king of cups or a king of swords kind of in hiding, but I didn't see it. But listeners, if you see any, you need to write us and tell us if you see another figure with some king energy. And also the Four of Pentacles. And this figure has a crown sitting in front of a very sprawling, looks like successful city townscape behind them. And although the face of this figure is kind of dour, it's kind of like not a happy face, I see this as such a positive card representing proper resource management. What you're going to save, what you're going to invest. The pentacle at your heart is treat yourself. What are you going to donate? You know, it's the breaking up of your money, not keeping it all in some place, or of your resources. It's proper resource management. So a few more kings. Do you, now that you're sitting here thinking about it, we'll be looking for king energy and some of the other characters in the cards?
So I pondered, what do the kings have in common? And I wrote down the hero warrior archetype. We talked about that a little bit in that episode, but I think the kings, in addition to the ruler archetype, embody some of that hero warrior because of their embodiment and mastery of things like generosity, leadership,
Mm-hmm.
strength, power, experience, and integrity.
Emotional intelligence. King of Cups,
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence. He's mastered that.
Beyond the hero warrior archetype, the kings have authority, leadership, responsibility, consolidated power. You could say consolidated power of like the element of their suit, embodiment of that elemental power, mastery, wisdom, experience, their exemplary and mature yang energy. That's sort of
Mm-hmm.
overall the similarities I see with the four kings.
And we covered a lot of the symbols in these cards in the previous seasons, but I'm always finding new little tidbits of information. And as I was looking at the cards, why does the King of Pentacles have armored boots on? Do you see? He's the only king that has armor on his feet that is at all visible. All the other kings just have regular gray, red, and gray boots on. This is to show a connection to the earth and being very much in the physical realm. It could be a readiness for defense. It could be a connection to military power. I don't feel that. But what I really liked was the connection to the earthly emperor. They both have armor boots on. And if we remember, the emperor is very physical world, very earthly domain. And there's a connection there between the two of them in mastery of your environment and your resources. And, you know, specifically the emperor, your boundaries. And with the King of
Mm-hmm.
Pentacles, your money, your finances, your resources. But it shows a readiness and a defense and an energy there that I kind of didn't really see with the King of Pentacles. I want to say another thing with all four kings. Do you see how under their crown they have like a cape or a shawl or something covering their hair? In the King of Cups, it's a blue cloth covering. In the King of Swords, it's red. In the King of Wands, it's like orange with dots. And the King of Pentacles, it's red. And this is called the cap of maintenance, which was something that kings wore during that time frame. And it was a red or that orange covering, and it represents responsibility to others. It's a sign of success, and it means that they're at the pinnacle, the pinnacle of their kingly power, of their mastery, of their energy, of their suits. But it's interesting to me that Pamela Smith made a point to put that type of symbol on all four kings. But then when you think about it, it is to show a mastery of their element. Then I'm like, I understand that. It's another symbol to represent that. And lastly, talk about symbols. The four kings connected to their zodiac sign and to their queens. On the King of Wands, connected to the zodiac sign of Leo through the lions, the royal lions, and also connected to the Queen of Wands through the lion motif. They both have lion and cat amulets at their heart and throat area, and they both have lions on their thrones. The King of Pentacles has Taurus bulls on his throne to connect to Taurus. And you'll notice on the crown of the King of Pentacles, there are red roses. And those are the red roses that are growing across the Queen of Pentacles card. There's red roses all through that card. Now, for the King of Swords, I really had to search for an Aquarius symbol. I almost thought that those two little birds looked a little bit like the Aquarius symbol. But if you look very, very closely in the crown, there is a little face with wings, and it's that pranic angel. The symbol used in the Rider-Waite-Smith for Aquarius is a angel, or the cherub with wings for that spirit element or that air element, and it's in the crown of the King of Swords. So I found it. And the connection to the queen is all the butterflies. There's butterflies on his throne, and there's butterflies on the queen's crown. And this one was what made me think about the inspiration of connecting to the zodiac, because the King of Cups, how is the King of Cups connected to Scorpio? And you remember from the jellyfish on the crown of the King of Cups. Yeah. Do you remember we talked about the sting of Scorpio? I am running with that. I really liked learning that. And that's when I see the King of Cups, I'm like, that's Scorpio. And the connection to the queen is the echo of the shell shape of their throne. The king has a fish amulet, and the queen has the fish scales in her hair and on her crown. And there's also a blue fish on the side of that card, and also on the other side of the queen's card. So they're connected. And both of their thrones are in water and near the water. The queen's is on the beach, and the King of Cups is in the water. And the other kings don't have water in theirs. So he's connected to her through that water imagery. So just another little fun couple notes on symbols with these kings. And I'm sure every time we talk about the kings or the court cards, we'll notice something else. And we'll kind of figure out. We'll do a little detective work and figure out what that symbol might mean. Okay, now, shall we talk about the kings a little bit? I want to start with the King of Wands. Just going through the fire pentacle, or the wands, pentacles, swords, cups order of the zodiacal year. And in mythology, in my mythic tarot deck, the King of Wands is Theseus, or Theseus, who we just talked about when we just talked about the fifth house, right? Because I was talking about the King of Wands. And the note I took from the Mythic Tarot guidebook was, Theseus is not just a brash young man. He is a strategist. How do you say that?
Strategist?
Strategist and a shaper of world events. For he possesses not only vision, but the steady power to manifest his vision. That's that fire and wand energy. And then going back to the quote, and the warm and infectious personality which can convince others of its validity.
So the King of Wands you would call on when you need help stoking your inner fire, when you need energy towards creativity, ambition, or when you need inspiration. The King of Wands is about personal power and
Mm-hmm.
manifestation. The King of Wands embodies additionally the qualities of like devotion. And Christina kind of mentioned that sticking with your ideas and your passions,
Mm-hmm.
also integrity and willpower, courage, that Leo quality of courage and strength. The wands are about I desire, ambition, and the soul. And in the Muse Tarot, the kings have been renamed the Muse of, and the suits have been renamed as well. So in this
Mm.
deck, the King of Wands is the Muse of inspiration.
Oh, that's good. Do you have any archetype types for the King of Wands? Did you think about who a King of Wands energy might be? I thought of the ruler and the
Mhm.
explorer, but then also I was like, you know who a King of Wands is a personal trainer. It's a soldier, a police officer, a nurse, a fire person. It's these service heroes. Like those types of archetypal energies that find themselves in those types of jobs, but also those types of archetypes. Next, King of Pentacles. My Mythic Tarot deck has Midas for the King of Pentacles. If you're familiar with the story of Midas, who, it's interesting to note, was already a king, was wise and pious and kind, and also generous and understanding because the reason why he got his wish that everything he touched turned to gold was because he showed kindness and empathy towards the drunken satyr uh, Silnios, who was the tutor of Dionysus. And it was Dionysus who gave him the wish that whatever he touched turned to gold. King Midas was already successful, was already ambitious. He did ask for more, but you know what? Rather than starve to death or die of thirst, he asked for help and said, you know what? I learned my lesson. Take this away from me because I care more about my life than I do about gaining more gold. And so Dionysus took the gift away after he washed himself in the river Pactolus. So the lesson there is the King of Pentacles from the guidebook. The author writes, the King of Pentacles has reached the top because he has the right qualities of leadership, authority, realism, and discipline to overcome obstacles in his path. But as the myth suggests, he must also learn a hard lesson about his own greed. And he did, and he
Mm.
recanted, and he did what was required to undo the the request that everything turned to gold. So the lesson in there is, be careful what you ask for. Be
Yeah.
careful what you wish for. But I like that story of King Midas. Once you read through the whole story or the extended myth, because I did I know he had the wish taken back, or did I think he died? I'm not sure if I knew how the myth ended.
I
But
did
in
not
any
know how
case,
it ended.
yeah. Yeah, in any case, he washed himself in the river and he learned his lesson. But that is the King of Pentacles energy.
For the King of Pentacles, channel this king's energy to help you embody diligence and stability. It's the idea that Christina said with the Four of Pentacles being a responsible steward of your available resources. Um, Also understanding the many meanings of abundance and prosperity, which I think is sort of that lesson that King Midas learned.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just having a bunch of gold that makes
Mm-hmm.
you abundant and prosperous. Also, the King of Pentacles is that expert when it comes to our senses of comfort and security. So, defining that for yourself, you can channel the King of Pentacles and learn more about what that means for you, as well as generosity and caring for others. This suit, this element is about possessions, resources, and the body. And in the Muse Tarot, this king is the muse of materials.
Mm. Did you think about archetypes for the King of Pentacles? I was thinking of a CEO, a financial advisor, but also like a doctor and a farmer. Somebody who's very much in the like their mastery is in the physical world. Do you know what I mean? Like the human
Mm-hmm.
body. And once I got thinking about farming and being a farmer, I started thinking a lot about animal advocacy, and would this be a veterinarian, or would this like
Mm-hmm.
a horse trainer or something like that? But that archetype of working with and in the elements of the material world of resources.
Yeah, in one of my decks, the King of Pentacles is dressed up like a CEO, and one of them, he's sitting in his library, his study.
Mm-hmm.
And then in two of them, there is this sort of like natural connection, this like cyclical idea, like with harvest time and like observing the moon's phases. So you get a little bit of that like scholar teacher, but
Mm-hmm.
CEO, but somebody who has that connection to nature.
Yeah. For the King of Swords, the Mythic Tarot chose Odysseus, also called the Wily One, who was the king of Ithaca, joined the Trojan War. He was a shrewd advisor, a sound, oh, say that word again, strategist,
Strategist.
strategist. They say it was he who conceived of the idea of the Trojan horse. He was a brilliant an inventor, but not always honest, not always humble, and not really emotional or driven by emotions. The author writes in their guidebook, he comes down to us in myth as a brilliant strategist, a clever bargainer and manipulator, a kind of man with high ideals and a chill figure with no real empathy for other individuals. And the
Hmm.
paradox here, again, the author writes, this is his paradox that he is a man of unquestionably high principles, yet at the same time, who, like the proverbial weathercock, can shift unexpectedly from one allegiance to the other in order to preserve diplomacy and cooperation. Although this is a contradiction in terms, both the noble and guileful aspects of his nature spring from the same idealistic root. And you could see that. This is almost politician like, that will compromise, will cooperate, will, yeah, compromise in order to maintain the higher good or the greater good. And that is King of Swords, that double edged sword energy, that there's not a lot of like emotional
Mm-hmm.
passion behind it. This is more of a, like they said, more of a diplomatic, cooperative, high
There
ideal type of energy.
Yeah, there is like an aloof or like detached
Yes.
quality to the King of
Yes.
Swords.
Yeah. If any king is that, it's this king that is not thinking, this is like the judge. They're not thinking about your feelings. They're thinking about the law and what you did and how you can make it right. That is the energy, or how you make it right, or how you are going to be punished, depending on, the violation. But that is the King of Swords energy. This is a very double-edged sword mental mastery and understanding. But also, I love that they focused, or that the Mythic Tarot focused on cooperation and diplomacy as well, because that can feel very double-edged, especially now in art, in like today's political environment. People want everything to be so polarized, and a lot of people don't want to come together and compromise, but sometimes nothing will happen if we don't figure out a way to compromise and cooperate and to be diplomatic with each other.
I wrote down to call on the King of Swords to help you think through what to do next, whether it's making a decision. The King of Swords can help with cutting through illusion or deception or feelings of anxiety or overwhelm, handling a harsh truth, working through a mental or psychological challenge. King of Swords can help with clear communication and using reason and logic. This is the
Mm-hmm.
realm of, I think, the mind and the intellect. And in the Muse Tarot, the king is renamed the Muse of Voices.
Oh, I like the archetypal energy of sage, and I just said judge, and maybe something in that realm. But then for modern day, I'm like, this is like tech support. This is like surgeon energy, that I am going to assist you, but I'm going to do it in a very cold clinical way. I can make it
Mm-hmm.
right, but I can't. You know what I'm saying? Like not your doctor. Like this is that surgeon. This is a different area of that understanding. Like this isn't a high school teacher. This is a college professor energy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it has to do with levels of mastery and levels of understanding. Okay, King of Cups. The Mythic Tarot has Orpheus, who was the prince. He was the son of a Thracian king. Orpheus was on the quest for the Golden Fleece with Jason and the Argonauts. Orpheus's musical ability helped overcome many difficult situations. And the story of Orpheus is that his wife, Eurydice, died, and Orpheus went to the underworld to recall her back to life. He used his charm and his musical skill, and honestly, his heart and his passion and his resolve and his feelings to charm Charon, Cerberus, Hades, Persephone, all of the underworld personalities, to allow him to return back to Earth with Eurydice. He used his charm and his feelings and his skill, but in the end, he lost faith and he looked back. And that was the one thing he was told not to do. Don't look back. Trust that she is behind you until you reach the upper world. And he looked back and he lost her again.
Hmm.
The author of the guidebook for Mythic Tarot says the King of Cups places human relationships and human love above everything, and will go to great lengths to initiate and preserve this emotional contact. Yet, he remains curiously uncomfortable and must keep looking back to see whether what he has initiated is still behind him, still intact. And that is the realm of cups and emotions, right? It's very watery. What can we, how, 100% factual certain can we be about our feelings when they flow and they shift and they change and they grow as we shift and change and grow. The King of Cups energy is strong feelings, but also still a little uncertainty. There's too much flow in cups and water. And there should be. We can't be stagnant. Water is supposed to flow. Feelings are supposed to flow. But that's the King of Cups Orpheus energy.
I wrote down to channel the King of Cups to help you connect with your inner knowing and strength. I think of the cups not just of like our feelings and our emotions, but also the like intuitive realm, or like the deeper layers of the water underneath the choppy surface.
Mm-hmm.
The King of Cups can help with emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. What do your feelings convey? What is trying to be expressed? Getting in touch with your intuition and your sensing state of being, getting into flow states. So when we think about creativity or doing our work, whether it's like our job or daily chores, you can get into like a flow state. And I think that is in the sphere of cups when you're in that like flow state of mind. But also, the King of Cups call on him for relationship matters and when you need a little extra composure, steadiness, resilience. This is feeling emotions in the heart, and in the Muse Tarot, this king is renamed the Muse of Emotions.
Archetypal energy, I was thinking of the creativity, being artist, creator. Then also modern archetypal energy would be, again, an advocate, social worker, therapist kind of energy, somebody who's very skilled and knowledgeable and has a mastery of the realm of emotions. And what archetypes represent that to us today? It could be a veterinarian. All my cats had vet appointments this past week, so I'm thinking about how wonderful veterinarians are in our lives. So a veterinarian, like I said, a therapist or a social worker, and then these amazing artists that we have. These are musicians. These are actors. These are people that live in this world of creating realities with their emotions and with their intuition and with their abilities. It's a really interesting way to look again at the kings. I wanted to touch on the energy going into the Wheel of the Year. The kings, the four kings, are fixed energy. So they represent seasonally the middle of each season. The King of Pentacles is the middle of spring. It's the Taurus season, comes after Aries, before Gemini. The King of Pentacles, oh, wait, let me back this up. In my Celestial Bodies Oracle deck, it talks about fixed signs, the fixed energy sign. And this is where I pulled it. They write in their guidebook, fixed signs come in the middle of each season and represents the power of cultivating resources and rooting down into the foundations of things. Blessed with the bounty collected by the cardinal signs that came before them, the fixed signs are able to comb through their accumulated resources and find stability. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius are the fixed signs, each coming to us mid-season, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, respectively. The King of Pentacles, Taurus, encourages us to cultivate material foundations. King of Wands, Leo, allows us to feel rich in the resources of self expression, loyalty, and social connections. King of Cups, Scorpio, encourages us to root into the crucial foundations of psyche. King of Swords, Aquarius, functions best when rooting into the resource of community. We just talked about Lunasad when I was talking about Leo in the fifth house, because that's what we just talked about. So just to touch on that again, going from the beginning of the zodiac year at Aries, the first fixed energy we have is the King of Pentacles in the middle of spring, and the Sabbath or the Wheel of the Year celebration during that time is Beltane. And this has to do with meeting of friends, getting together with community, saying hello, and new, fresh starts. You can look at the tarot cards for the King of Pentacles, the related zodiac sign of the Hierophant, and then the three minor arcana cards for Taurus, the Five of Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles, and the Seven of Pentacles, to think about the energy of that season. We covered the King of Wands with the Strength card in the fifth house for Lunasad, and we had the Five of Wands, the Six of Wands, and the Seven of Wands, and we were talking about the feats of strength and the competitions that you had during that time of year, and that Lunasad is a time to celebrate that strength, to celebrate the fruits of the season, and to celebrate the strength and the abilities of ourselves in that Wands energy. The King of Cups is or Samhain, which is tied closely to the 31st of October, which is Halloween. Samhain is the 1st of November. This is a time for remembering ancestors, saying goodbye, and the end of harvest. To look at those cards, you have the King of Cups, the Death card, tied to Scorpio. And then you have the Five of Cups, Six of Cups, and the Seven of Cups, which are all about internal processing of emotional events, which is very much what we're doing at that time of the year. And then finally, the King of Swords. This is the Wheel of the Year celebration would be Imbolc, which is the 1st of February, or the second full moon after the winter solstice. But we'll talk more about that. I just wanted to touch on the cards associated with that. And at Imbolc, it's a hopeful looking forward. This is about planning, doing your inventories and dreams of a new cycle. Look at the cards. King of Swords, the star associated with Aquarius, which is hope. And then these are some difficult swords cards. The Five of Swords, the Six of Swords, and the Seven of Swords, which have to deal with coming to terms and coming to grips with what you actually think you want, what you actually think you need, and then what is actually possible for you to manifest and how you're going to do it and how you're going to plan that out. But these are seasonal alignments with those cards for those times of year. And it might be helpful for you listeners to look at these cards together like this. These are the cards I want to share on the Substack. And we could share my whole picture of all my kings, but this was the one that really got me thinking about the flow and the movement of time and the Wheel of the Year and the energies that these cards represent during those fixed seasons.
I sort of have a lot of that in a table already,
Ooh.
the Wheel of the Year correspondences, but now I'm thinking I need to reorganize the columns a little bit. But one of the things I noticed, and I don't know how helpful knowing this pattern is, like, I don't really know what the point is, how it would like add to anything, but what we see is that the kings are associated really, I guess, with like two sets of numbers from the minor arcana. So the 5, 6, and 7, because through the fixed zodiac sign, we get the 5, 6, and 7.
Mm-hmm.
But if we remember from the Chicken Kabbalah and when we talked last season about the court cards ruling minor arcana cards from 20 degrees of one sign through 20 degrees of the following sign, that's where we get the 7, 8, and 9 cards from the minor
Mm-hmm.
arcana and the kings.
Yes.
So, two different sets of cards, but we get there from two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, the kings rule the 7, 8, and 9. And what's interesting is the King of Wands, for example, rules the 7 of, or oversees the 7 of Cups, but then the 8 and the 9 of Wands. So it's like they rule a different suit, and then the last two, the 8 and the 9, match their suit. So the King of Pentacles, 7 of Wands, which preceded it in like the elemental order that we follow, and then the 8 and 9 of Pentacles, their own suit. King of Swords, 7 of Pentacles,
Mm-hmm.
that preceded in like the elemental order, and then the 8 and 9 of Swords. King of Cups, 7 of Swords, and then the 8 and 9 of Cups to match their suit. So just a pattern, just
Yeah.
something I noticed. And then I got curious about the numbers, their meanings, and how the elements interact. So there's a pattern here with the 8 and the 9 because the king oversees the 8 and the 9 and it's the same suit. The elemental interaction is one of strengthening and amplification with that card when you're working with the same element. And because the sevens, the king oversees a different element, gets a little interesting. With our yin suits, for example, the King of Wands and the Seven of Cups, there's a weakening effect. There's sort of this canceling each other out because water and fire elementally cancel each other out. And it's sort of the same idea with the King of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles. There's a weakening effect. With our King of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands, there's a neutral effect, just like the King of Cups and the Seven of Swords. So like I said, I don't know if I'm going to like keep doing this with like the rest of the
Mm.
court cards, but it's an
Yeah.
interesting pattern and it's an interesting concept to look at elemental interactions. It was good to, I guess, be aware of it. In general, the sevens, which would be one of the numbers that all of the kings sort of oversee in the minor arcana, that can convey faith, potential, ambition, synchronicity, complexity, luck, magic, visualization, focus, and inspired action. The eights, progress, ease, flow, results are appearing, patterns, routines, high vibrational wisdom, enlightenment, and ascension are some of the keywords for the number 8. And then the number 9, fruition, intensity, results again. Results continue to appear. You're getting what you want. Of course, nearing the end, we're almost complete, but also wisdom and solitude, surrendering, and faith and trust. So, those are kind of the numbers in general for the minor arcana cards that the kings oversee. And I think what I kind of took away from looking at all my king tarot cards together,
Mm-hmm.
pulled out from all my decks. Two of my decks rename the kings. One deck, the exemplar, that's the medicine woman tarot, and then the muse tarot renames the kings, the muse. And what's interesting is the depiction in the muse tarot are all more like feminine figures. These are not depicted as masculine figures. And it's the same in the medicine woman tarot. The kings are portrayed as women or female.
And they're called exemplars. What's interesting in the muse is there's sort of a like a double,
Mm-hmm. I
there's like a
wrote that
pathway
down.
between two,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's interesting.
I wrote that there's sort of like a kaleidoscopic and mirrored feel to the Muse
Mm-hmm.
Tarot. And the other striking thing with the Muse Tarot cards is the card itself is oriented horizontally. So the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the deck, all the cards are that like portrait vertical. We would expect a tarot card to be because that's what
Mm-hmm.
we see 99% of the time. But the kings or the muses in this deck are oriented landscape or horizontally. And I think that right away, what that does is it sort of makes you, it's like a forced perspective change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, this card is like laid out differently. And it's very striking, and you automatically see that card differently.
Mm-hmm.
In her guidebook, Chrisanne writes, there are no kings in the deck for the Muse Tarot. The kings of each suit have become the deck's muses. They embody the energy of their element fire, water, air, and earth, and they can show you, after having arrived at the end of the suit's journey, how to travel through their lessons gracefully.
I enjoyed putting all my kings together. Like I said, I added the Hermetic Order tarot cards, and they call the king the it's a prince. The prince of the chariot of fire is the king of wands. The Kim Cran's Wild Unknown Tarot uses father for the king energy level. And then the Sacred She just has the number 14 to show that end of the elemental energy journey. And they don't have any title. Like for the King of Wands, it's 14 integrity in the Sacred She. I enjoyed seeing all of these together. It's so striking to see how colors are used to portray elemental associations, but also sort of the energy of the card. You know what I mean? The red, the green, the white, the blue, the posture of the main figures, whether they're sitting, standing, which direction they're looking in, how are they holding the representation of their suit, like their cup or their sword or their pentacle. It's it is so pleasing to see them together along with the spirit animals. In the Spirit Song Tarot, I've got the horse and the lion and the tiger alongside the Father of Pentacles, which is a deer. And it does. I feel I get a really more well-rounded, deeper impression of the energy of these cards based on so many other people's images, so many other people's ideas, so many other people's and I haven't read all the guidebooks, honestly. I'll be honest with you listeners. I haven't read the guidebooks, but I've looked at the pictures. I've looked at the tarot cards, and it is so pleasing to me to see all the tarot cards together like this, and just to to look for similarities, but also to see the commonalities of the expression of the energy of the cards, the Earth card, the Pentacles card, and how it differs from all of the sword cards. I love the different colors and the different
Mm-hmm.
interpretations of all this king energy, of all this exemplar energy, of all this muse energy. I like
Mm-hmm.
exemplar and muse too. But we use king as in a way to annotate the level, not the gender, as we say over and over again. This is not a gendered energy. This is the age of the energy. This is the mastery of the energy, the amount of the energy, not an engendered energy
Mm-hmm.
or card for that matter.
Are you ready for
My
messages
gosh.
from
Yes.
the universe? I am using the Citadel Oracle deck, and I have 3 cards. And the first card. I didn't think about this when I first drew it, but it's the Muse. We've been sitting here calling the kings the Muses
Yes.
from the Muse Tarot. Oh my gosh, that is way too
And
funny.
and we have just got the message from the universe that yes, that is the muse energy. That is it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So that that was
Okay. Okay,
a
universe, you got our
message.
attention.
All right, the Muse. Laughter, flowing wine, the sound of someone playing the lyre. Sunshine streams into the square, bathing a gathering of dancing youths in its warmth. The Muse doesn't see the world as it is, but rather its potential and dreams of a life of peace and equality. Never short of a song or a toast, the Muse is an optimist and a lover, always ready with a kind word and a spare cup of wine. Now is the time to look beyond the bad news and embrace a little of that dreamer's spirit. Any situation can be improved with hard work, but it also needs optimism, belief in the potential for a better outcome, especially if others believe in it too. Being jaded is for the world weary. Embrace positivity instead. In reverse, this card means a dream is a wonderful thing, but don't get too wrapped up in it. There's still danger out there, and being too naive about the reality of the world can trip you up along the way. There's a balance to be found between optimism and realism.
Mm.
Card 2 is the Assassin. The streets are deathly silent, and even the moon has hidden itself from view. The shadows are dark, deep, and hungry, and from behind you, the whisper of steel, the press of a blade to your neck. The assassin has accepted that there are some things that simply must be done, no matter their personal feelings. In order to do what is required of them, they have had to harden their heart, but they now understand that this hardness does not affect their worth as a person. It's time for you to learn the same lesson. You are facing a difficult decision, and it feels like there's no right answer. But your instinct is telling you what you must do, even if you don't want to do it. So instead of dragging your feet, get it over with quickly. There's relief to be found on the other side of the fallout. In reverse, the assassin knows that relief comes after completing an unpleasant task quickly. Perhaps you've taken things too far and cut too many ties, leaving you alone and unsupported. It's time to reassess your coping methods and start rebuilding bridges, not burning them. Card 3, the Pathless. The street is busy, alive with the shouting of voices and the sound of boots on the cobbles. but one pair of feet seems to have no destination, walking in circles, meandering, and lost. This poor soul is the pathless, who hesitated on many decisions and rushed into too many others. They are the product of indecision and misdirection, lacking confidence in themselves and trusting too much in people who would misguide them. It feels like progress on whatever you've been working towards has ground to a halt. Others might have others might give you unsolicited advice, but you know yourself better than anyone else. Take a step back and consider a new direction, but don't keep stubbornly moving forward if it's not getting you anywhere. Reversed, the pathless doesn't lack direction because of stubbornness, rather because of an impulsive energy that's driving them in multiple directions at once. You know what you want, but you lack the valuable experience needed to organize and plan how to actually get there. Consider that you might need a little more time before you're in a position to pursue this particular path. Those were strong messages today, universe.
Yes. Thank you, universe. That is such a magical deck.
And next week, I think, is our Element of Fire episode. It's our last one during Leo season. Then we move into Virgo.
I feel I still am shaping how we're going in season 3. I'm still shaping my list and shaping the like, what do I want to focus on? What do I want to talk about? But I loved everything we've talked about so far in Leo season. It has been a blast.
I agree. So until next week, listeners, thank you so much. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. Logo design by Melissa Waples. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.